think that Trump's biggest uh, uh, benefit having him run is, besides the entertaining factor, he brings some entertainment to the process, in my mind, is the fact that he forces certain discussion on certain issues that neither party wants to really tackle.
Yes. Well, we've said it before on the show. I've said it before. The bottom line is people are just fed up with Washington because nothing gets done. One thing politicians do very well, and that is talk. All they do is talk. When the Democrats, held, at the beginning when Obama was elected, okay, there was, the country was really in a bad way economically and everything else, but the Democrats held both houses in Congress and the executive branch, couldn't do anything.
Right.
Okay? Couldn't do anything. And now you have the Republicans now have control of Congress, but they don't control the executive branch, and people are still fed up because they're not doing anything either, except talk.
Right. It's true.
So that's why somebody like Trump comes along and he says, "Listen, I'm a businessman. I get things done." You could say a lot of things about Trump, but the bottom line is he does tend to get things done. He moves things along,
Right.
One of the other things that Trump was...
But, look at this thing about, the good example is highway fund, right? It doesn't have the money to do all the roads. Yeah,
it's true.
And everybody's afraid to talk about raising the gas tax. They won't touch it. There are a couple of senators that actually are supporting it. Corker from Tennessee and a Democrat from, I don't know who it is, who have proposed to go ahead. It hadn't been raised in, I think, 30 or 40 years, the gas tax.
Well,
and people drive on those roads and they need to be paying, and not only that, but the gasoline consumption per vehicle is much less today than it was.
Not only that, it's gasoline now is at an all-time low.
Right, and it's going to stay low for a while. I mean,
now would be the perfect time to raise the gas tax.
They can't move. They can't move the needle. They can't do anything. It's just, they're all afraid. They're all being politically incorrect. They're afraid of a backlash of it's just they're just got no guts.
The states raise the taxes a lot on gas. Also, you have to remember. So
they do, but and because some of it has to do because they need the money for their own projects. But a lot of projects that they'll go cross states, and you need to have a federal, robust federal program to tie all that stuff together.
Adam, you're sounding like a socialist or a Democrat.
Well, I'm neither. I'm an independent.
There you go.
And I think most Republicans or most Democrats, privately, they would support it, but they're just afraid of their constituents.
That's exactly right. Look, logically, it makes so much sense, especially since right now people are paying $2.40 for a gallon of gas.
Right.
If it went up, we were so used to paying $3 a gallon and more. So if you raise the tax and it went up
you're talking about raising the tax by cents, maybe 5 or 10 cents, that's all they're talking about, and that would make a huge difference and create jobs. It's just win-win, and nobody has the guts to do it, bring it up.
Maybe Trump will.
Well,
There'll be
Well, I
something
tell you,
else.
all I know is it was very interesting watching. You see, I do watch Fox News every now and then. On Sundays, I like to watch Chris Wallace.
hmm
I also watch Howie Kurtz, but Chris Wallace is pretty fair in his interviewing.
right.
And you know, he gets that from his dad. And the bottom line is, they had the Cheneys on. They had Liz and her father, Dick.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And of course, they're blaming Obama, the Obama administration, and
Right.
and Wallace said to him, "Listen, because Cheney was trying to say, when we left office, Iraq was handled, everything with, the surge work, this, that, the other thing, But Wallace brought up and said, listen, Obama inherited for that first year, 2009, he inherited, Bush's legacy. He was only carrying out, Bush's legacy, and
Right,
there were
that's
problems.
right.
There were problems. People
Absolutely.
said, we had to get out of Iraq and Afghanistan by a certain time because they wanted us out. It wasn't a matter of leaving a residual force to try to keep things safe. All right? And then Bush, a couple of generals said this, the United States is great at going into a country and overthrowing a dictator or, taking him out of office. But when there's no structure underneath that person, you have no idea who's going to be coming in and what's going to happen. The country falls apart, and that's what happens.
Right. Well, obviously Bush made a tremendous mistake by going into Iraq. It's just things fell apart after that. He had a dictator as bad as he was. He kept things together.
Well, all the
And the funny thing.
And those people, they really don't function very well under a traditional Western democracy.
No, they see that's the problem. Bush said that all of these countries, there's a democracy waiting to emerge, and that's not true.
No,
Egypt was always ruled by a dictator or a general. Okay,
right.
Same thing with.
And they really like it that way, as long as he's fair, as long as he's not, being really difficult person. As long as he's being fair, they operate better that way.
It's true. Look at all the problems that Russia had when the Berlin Wall came down and Germany was unified. Okay, for a while there, it was tough going there for Russia, and for Germany until they managed to get things together. It took a few years, and then Russia lost their status as a superpower, and it's only recently that they're starting to come back. Once they broke up the Soviet Union, people still look to the United States, as the one true superpower.
Yep. So far.
And we can't even solve our own problems.
No, we're bad at that.
Well, one of the things that you had said, he was interviewed afterwards, that he's a longtime friend of Donald Trump. And
yeah, you would.
Yeah, he's a long-time friend of and he didn't take what Donald Trump said about him too seriously, and he liked what Donald said about not knowing a lot about Iraq and all that. He said he will bring in people who know, and they'll consult him and show him.
Absolutely, yeah. He doesn't have to know all that.
Yeah, and that's what he's.
He needs to know what he doesn't know, understand, and get the right people to help him.
That's what he was. That's what he said, and you would agree with him. He said that's quite logical.
The one thing that he said he really expected Donald to know about was General Soleimani. The other stuff he said, you're right. You have a Secretary of State, you have a Secretary of Defense, you have an NSA advisor. All these people. They're the ones that do all the
detail
all
work,
the heavy work, the paperwork,
right,
and the heavy work for you. But then again,
and you also have advisors that you don't even know about.
When George W. Bush was running for president, he didn't know the difference between Sunnis and Shias. So
Well, Mark, think about it.
And a lot of people didn't.
You didn't know it neither, Mark. You didn't know who.
Well, I'm not a president.
I didn't know it.
I'm not president.
Yeah, I know. We didn't know.
But a lot of people, I knew the terms Sunni and Shia, but didn't realize there's such a deadly animosity between them.
And then you got the Kurds in the middle. Then you got the Kurds in the middle of it.
Yeah, I knew about the Kurds, but the
now
fact,
wait a second.
The way I looked at the Sunnis up until the last few years, when all this stuff broke out, was more like another sect of maybe the Orthodox Jews and maybe the conservative, or maybe the Reformed, and maybe different sects of Christianity. But these guys, they'll kill. It's deadly. It's not just I don't like you. It's different. So.
Now, Mark,
they take it to it. Look, like anything else, they take it to an extreme.
Right. Right. All right, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up here.
Well, I got
Enjoyed
one more
talking
question.
with you.
It was a pleasure, Adam.
One more thing, Adam, I want to throw into the hat before you leave, and that's the Iran agreement. What's your take?
I don't want to get into that. Like I told you, there's too much stuff in it, and in my opinion, the bottom line is it is what it is, and there's no way to change it at this point. So just suck it up, and it's hopefully it'll work out. If not, you can always go to war. That's the way I look at it.
Well, the only problem with that is that you go to war this time, it could be the end of the end. That's it.
Absolutely, it could be. If those guys are determined on developing a nuclear weapon, that's what's going to happen. Absolutely.
Well, it was interesting listening to Debbie Wasserman Schultz yesterday on one of the I think it was Meet the Press.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, it's a very tough decision for her because number one, many of her constituents in Miami are Jewish. She's Jewish. She says, I'm thinking with a Jewish mother's heart. She said, I have children. I want Israel to survive and everything, But she came down to the decision that this is the best deal that you could get at this particular time. And if you have any hopes of, and this is what I've said to Felix many times, and my friend Ed, and anybody else who will listen, bottom line is, at some point you have to say, like John Lennon, you got to give peace a chance, you got, and Felix doesn't like when I quote this, but the bottom line is you got 60% of the Iranian population is 35 years of age and below. All right? These are the people that are going to be in power soon enough. Okay? The mullahs, you don't know how much longer they're going to keep going. You don't know if you're going to get a more moderate president in there other than Rouhani, who himself is more moderate than Ahmadinejad was.
Absolutely.
So you got to hope for the future, and that's what it is. Because something, Adam, if there's going to be a nuclear war, we live in New York. kiss it goodbye. That's it.
Well,
You
but
know?
look where we live. I mean, we live at the center of the largest military naval center